In Matthew's Gospel, you have the Sermon on the Mount. In Luke's Gospel, what we have is what we describe as the Sermon on the Plain. Jesus has just been on a mountain with his disciples, and then he comes down from the mountain and he addresses the people. In both Gospels, effectively, you have Jesus emerging as a new Moses with new teaching, a new message, coming down from the equivalent of Horeb or Sinai when Moses came down with the 10 Commandments. Now you have Jesus with a new message. There are connections with the past, with the Old Testament, and that's what's gone on before, but this is something new. And even to us hearing this today, what we have in Luke's Gospel is very different to how we normally think and operate. Jesus takes a whole load of attitudes and states, which are at the very least difficult, and presents them as ideals. This is where you are blessed. This is where you're in a good position. Luke's Gospel's version of these Beatitudes is different to Matthew's. And people have argued that Luke is more likely to be authentic because in addition to the blessings, he also presents a series of woes or curses. Blessed are you and woe to you. We've covered some of what we might be saying here about these Beatitudes because we've looked recently on Sundays at Matthew's version, and I don't want to duplicate what we're doing. But because Luke includes the woes as well as blessings, blessed are you who are poor, woe to you who are rich, there is something of a balance created. And one aspect of the Beatitudes which isn't commented on very often is that the states which are described, poverty, wealth, hunger, fullness, and so on, are not only opposites, but they are transitory. One impression with which you could come away after reading Luke's account of what Jesus is supposed to have said, and while it may not be word for word, what we have here is most definitely very early teaching from the Jesus tradition. One impression you have after reading this is that what is being said is that nothing is permanent. And that's very important. This would be very familiar teaching and comfortable teaching to someone who is coming from an Eastern tradition such as Buddhism. Essentially, Jesus is saying that whatever state of mind, situation, set of circumstances you are in now will be different tomorrow or even in a minute. Blessing or woe, it's all just the same, it's all one. And I think that this is profound teaching and that we miss it because we're not attuned to listening to someone who is essentially an Eastern teacher. It's a bit like Scottish weather. Whatever the weather is doing now, be it good or bad, wait 10 minutes and it'll be completely different. And in our lives, you are young and then you blink and so it seems, and you're old. You're filled with joy and life is good, and then in the flickering of an eye, the tick of a clock, your life is turned upside down. You're in the depth of despair, and then in a flash, your life is back on track, although it seldom is quite as quick as that. But blessing and woe, it is one. Nothing lasts forever. It is all impermanent. Jesus is saying, I think, that you are not your emotions, or thought, or what is happening to you. You are deeper than that. Real life and real blessing is to be found beneath all of this turbulent, changing world. Don't seek blessing and don't fear woe. It's all one because it is ever and always changing.